Hey everyone, ready for a less stressful morning? I am. We're diving into Spavelous online magazine today, and let me tell you, they've got some seriously good tips for building a better morning routine.
Sounds right up my alley.
You know, this magazine is all about health, wellness, beauty. Basically, helping us live our best lives,
Guess
right?
the goal.
And today, we're zeroing in on how to hack our mornings so the whole day runs smoother. Less stress, more you time, all that good stuff. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, why is everyone talking about morning routines all of a sudden? Is it just a fad?
Now, it's not just some fleeting trend. There's real science behind why routines, especially in the AM, can make such a huge difference. Just think about it, right? You wake up and boom, a million decisions. What to wear, what to eat, should I hit snooze again?
Oh, the snooze button struggle is real.
And all those choices before you've even had your coffee, they drain your mental energy. It's called decision fatigue, and it's no joke.
Okay, that makes sense. I always feel so scattered in the mornings.
Right. But a routine kind of puts you on autopilot in a good way. Frees up brain space for the important things. Less stress, more productivity, and you're setting the tone for a calmer, more focused day.
Love that. The magazine calls it creating a foundation for wellness. Sounds fancy, but what does that actually mean?
It's not about checking boxes on a list, it's more about being intentional with your time, setting the stage for mindful choices, energy management, a more balanced approach to the whole day.
Like setting up dominoes, one leads to the next.
Exactly. So the article mentions things like less decision fatigue, which we talked about, more mindfulness, and of course, getting things done. But one thing that really jumped out at me was how even 5, 10 minutes of movement can make a huge difference. Why is that?
Yeah, that surprised me too.
Well, even a little bit gets your blood flowing, wakes up those muscles. It's like flipping a switch in your body saying, time to get moving. Stretching, in particular, releases tension and helps you transition from sleep to, well, being awake. You're literally lengthening your muscles and increasing blood flow, shaking off that sleep inertia.
So it's not just a mental wake-up, it's a physical one too. They suggest yoga, light stretching, whatever gets you going. I'm not a yoga person myself, but a good stretch, I can do that. Now what about food? Spavelous really emphasizes a healthy breakfast. Is it really the most important meal?
Oh, definitely a connection between what you eat and how you feel. A good breakfast helps keep your blood sugar stable. Stable blood sugar means stable energy, so no crazy mood swings or those mid-morning crashes. It's all about giving your body what it needs to run smoothly.
Not just avoiding those hunger pangs then, it's about feeling good all morning long. They had some yummy suggestions too. Oatmeal, Greek yogurt, fruit. Maybe not all at once though.
Uh-huh, right. Find what fuels you best and keeps you going. Speaking of feeling grounded, they also mentioned meditation.
Oh, meditation. Full disclosure, I'm not great at that. My mind just won't quiet down. Got any tips for beginners?
Don't sweat it, you're not alone. Most people think it's about emptying your mind, but it's actually more about noticing your thoughts without judging them. Just a few minutes of focused breathing can do wonders for calming your nervous system down.
That feels a lot more doable. I like that they suggest trying an app, like having a guide to help you out.
Yeah, those apps can be great. Guided meditations, breathing exercises, even nature sounds. It's like having a personal meditation coach in your pocket.
Way less intimidating. Okay, last thing on their list is planning your day. Isn't that kind of counterintuitive? Like, doesn't thinking about your to-do list just add more stress?
Good point. It's not about creating some rigid schedule that stresses you out. It's about setting intentions for the day. What are your top 3 things you want to get done? If you know your priorities, everything else feels less overwhelming because you have a direction.
So it's like having a roadmap for the day so you don't feel lost.
Exactly. Taking control before the day takes control of you.
I like that. So we've got movement, breakfast, mindfulness, and planning. That's great. But how do we make this work in real life? Mornings can be crazy, especially if you're not a morning person. Any tips for those of us who hit the snooze button a few or maybe more times?
The key is to start small, be kind to yourself. You don't got to become a morning person overnight. Pick 1 or 2 things you can actually manage and make them habits. Maybe it's just drinking a glass of water when you wake up or stretching for a few minutes. Once those stick, you can add more.
So build it up slowly, like a foundation.
Exactly.
And Spavelous agrees. They say consistency is key. Aim for at least 3 weeks of doing it daily to really make it stick. But what about when life happens? Unexpected things, travel, those curveballs. Could you just abandon the routine completely?
Absolutely not. Life happens. Being flexible is important. Have a few core habits you try to stick to even when things are crazy, and be ready to adapt as needed. Maybe you can't do your full yoga routine while traveling, but you can still squeeze in a few stretches.
So it's like having a backup plan for your routine.
You got it. It's not about being rigid, it's about having a framework that helps you feel grounded, even when things are unpredictable.
I'm starting to see how a morning routine can really help manage stress, make you feel better equipped for whatever the day throws at you. It's not just about being organized, it's about taking care of yourself.
100%. It's setting yourself up for success, mind, and body.
Okay, but let's be real. Some days are just harder than others. What about those mornings where you wake up already stressed? Like even before you get out of bed, you're thinking about all the things you have to do, all the problems you're facing. How can a routine help them?
That's where mindfulness comes in. Even a few minutes of focusing on your breath, or maybe practicing some gratitude, can shift you from stress to calm. You're acknowledging the feelings, but not letting them run your whole day.
Hitting the reset button before you even get out of bed.
Exactly. You're putting some space between you and the stress so you can approach the day with a clearer head.
Love that. So we've talked about a lot the benefits, how to get started, how to adapt when things go sideways. What else stood out to you from the Spavelous article?
You know what really resonated with me was their emphasis on making it personal. There's no one right way to do this. It's about figuring out what actually works for you, your personality, your schedule, what you need. And that might take some experimenting.
So it's like finding the perfect recipe for your ideal morning. Maybe you got to tweak it a few times to get it just right.
Exactly. And it's not set in stone either. Your routine can change as your life changes, as your priorities shift, as you learn more about yourself. What matters is that you're intentionally creating a morning experience that helps you thrive and minimizes stress.
It's a journey, but for your mornings. We've covered so much in this deep dive into stress-free mornings, but there's still more to unpack. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap things up with some final thoughts and actionable takeaways. We're back, ready to keep digging into these awesome morning routines. You know, this whole conversation has me thinking, if starting the day right is so important, does that mean how we end the day matters too? Like, could a good evening routine set us up for a calmer morning?
You're totally onto something. How you wind down at night absolutely impacts your stress the next morning. It's all connected.
Like a domino effect. Calm evening, peaceful morning.
Exactly. Think about adding some calming activities to your evening, putting away those screens an hour before bed, maybe a relaxing bath, reading a book, anything that helps you unwind. That leads to better sleep, and better sleep leads to a smoother, less chaotic start to your day.
Okay, so routines are important morning and night. Got it. But what about those of us who just aren't natural morning people? Any advice for making this whole routine thing work when you'd rather be hitting snooze?
I think it all comes down to starting small and not being too hard on yourself. You don't have to transform into a morning person overnight. Start with just one or two habits you can actually manage. Maybe it's something as simple as drinking a glass of water as soon as you wake up, or doing some stretches for 5 minutes. Once those become second nature, you can add more.
That's a relief. It's like we were saying earlier, building it up slowly, brick by brick.
Exactly.
And Spavelous is on board with that too. They're all about starting small and being consistent. They recommend aiming for at least 3 weeks of doing it daily. That's how a habit really sticks. But what about those times when your carefully planned routine goes out the window? You know, unexpected stuff comes up, travel, those curveballs. Should you just give up on the routine altogether?
No way. Life happens. You got to be flexible. The trick is to figure out a few core habits that you try to stick to, even when your schedule is crazy, and be open to adapting as needed. Maybe you can't do your whole yoga routine while you're traveling, but can you squeeze in a few stretches in your hotel room? Maybe a full breakfast isn't an option, but can you grab a piece of fruit and some nuts? It's about finding ways to keep those good habits going, even when things are unpredictable.
Like a backup plan for your routine so you don't completely lose your progress.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
You know, I'm starting to see how a morning routine is about so much more than just being organized. It's about being proactive, taking care of yourself, and feeling prepared for whatever the day might throw at you.
Absolutely. It's about setting yourself up for success, mentally and physically.
Okay, so we've covered the benefits, how to get started, how to be flexible when things get crazy. But let's face it, some days are just hard. What about those mornings when you wake up and you're already stressed? You know, even before you get out of bed, you're thinking about all the things you need to do, all the problems you're facing. How can a morning routine help on those days?
That's when the mindfulness part of your routine becomes super important. Even just a few minutes of focusing on your breath or maybe doing some gratitude exercises can totally shift your mindset. You go from feeling stressed to feeling a little bit more calm and centered. It's not about pretending the stress isn't there. It's about choosing not to let it control your whole day.
Like hitting the reset button on your mood before you even start your to-do list.
Exactly. You're creating a little bit of space between you and the stress so you can approach your day with more clarity and focus.
I love that. Okay, we've covered a lot in this deep dive. We talked about the benefits of a morning routine, how to get started, how to adapt when things go off plan. What else from that Spavelous article really stood out to you? What did you find particularly helpful?
You know, what really resonated with me was their focus on personalization. They
Yeah.
really emphasize that there's no one right way to do this. It's all about finding what truly works for you, your personality, your schedule, your needs. And that might take some trial and error. It's about trying different things until you find what clicks.
It makes sense. It's like finding the perfect recipe for your morning. You might need to experiment with different ingredients, try a few different combinations until you find what you really love.
Exactly. And it's not something that's set in stone either. Your routine can evolve as your life changes, as your priorities shift, as you learn more about yourself. The most important thing is that you're intentionally creating a morning experience that sets you up for success and helps you minimize stress.
I love that. It's a journey, but for your mornings. We've covered so much in this deep dive into creating stress-free mornings. And even though we've been talking about morning routines specifically, this advice applies to any part of your day, right?
Absolutely. The principles we've been talking about, intentionality, mindfulness, personalization, you can use those to create routines for any time of day, whether it's your work day, your evening, even your weekend. It's about taking control of your time and shaping your experience so it aligns with your goals and well-being.
I love that. It's like taking back the power and designing a life that feels good moment by moment. But for now, let's stick with those mornings. We've got one final part to this deep dive, so stay tuned for some closing thoughts and key takeaways to help you create your own stress-free morning routine. We are back for the final part of our deep dive into stress-free mornings.
It's been a great conversation, lots to think about.
It really has. We talked about everything from the science of routines to why it's so important to make it personal.
And how those same ideas can apply to other parts of your day, too.
So true. But for now, let's stick with those mornings. As we wrap things up, what are the key takeaways for our listeners? Why should we all be trying to build a good morning routine?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that a morning routine that really works for you, it's a powerful tool, reduces stress, improves your well-being, helps you start the day feeling grounded, focused, in control.
Sets the stage for a good day right from the start.
Exactly. And as we've been talking about, there's no one right way to do it. The magic really is in making it your own, figuring out what you need.
Creating a morning experience that feels good and helps you be successful.
Exactly. It's about taking control of your morning and using it to intentionally shape the kind of day you want to have.
I love that.
Yeah.
So to everyone listening, we challenge you to think about what causes you the most stress in the morning.
What's one little change you could make to create a smoother, more enjoyable start to your day?
Maybe it's 5 minutes of stretching or practicing gratitude while you're having your coffee. Whatever it is, experiment. See what works for you. Remember, even small changes can make a big difference.
Your morning is yours. Make it awesome.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into stress-free mornings. We'll see you next time for another insightful exploration.